Hello again. When a bunch of weird men were voted in as councillors during the local elections in May and promptly began shouting things like Allahu Akbar and this is for Gaza, most of us assumed that this was simply a blip in this country's democratic process. Surely such people would have no chance of becoming MPs. How wrong we were. When Shohat Adam was elected as the MP for Leicester South on Thursday, he shouted, "This is for the people of Gaza," and began waving a Palestinian keffiyeh about. Four Islamists, fellow travellers of the Muslim Brotherhood, were voted into Parliament at the general election, men who stood for policies which concerned only the Middle East and support for the Islamist regime of Hamas in Gaza. They stood in Muslim areas and were endorsed by religious leaders. In addition to those four Muslims, Jeremy Corbyn, of course, also stood as an independent. He was on a similar set of policies because no sooner had he been elected than he went beetling off to the Finsbury Park Mosque to deliver a speech supporting the cause of Palestine. In the description to this video, I give a link to a clip of film showing him speaking in the mosque. I mention this because there is widespread satisfaction about the fact that 5 candidates for reform were elected on Thursday. To be sure, this is something of an achievement, but it is sobering to think that just as many people were also elected on policies relating to events in the Middle East. In Wales, Plaid Cymru, the Welsh nationalists, managed to get 4 MPs for a movement devoted to a part of Britain. Islamists managed to get as many MPs on policies which had nothing whatsoever to do with Britain. The independent Muslim MPs who have been elected were a result of the Muslim Vote campaign, which has been very active in areas containing a high percentage of Muslims. I give a link to this organisation in the description to this video. The intention is that Muslims will start voting for explicitly Muslim candidates who will represent the interests of Muslims not only in this country but across the world. This is why we've been hearing those elected as a result of this movement shouting about Gaza. This is not about Britain and its politics at all, but about Islam across the world. The thumbnail to this video shows a picture used by Muslim Vote to symbolise what they stand for. You can see a Muslim woman voting beneath the flag of Palestine. This really has nothing to do with British politics at all. That picture tells us all we need to know. So although some people are cock-a-hoop about those 5 Reform MPs, I think we should also bear in mind that another mass movement is stirring, that of the 4 million or so Muslims in this country. Those 4 million people are increasingly losing interest in British political parties and thinking about voting only for Muslim candidates to represent them. It is the fission or splitting of society along religious lines, which is a frightening thought. This is to me the most alarming feature of the last election because in addition to those independent Muslim MPs who got in, there were another half dozen or so who came very close to getting in. Something has changed in the political scene in Britain, and we ignore this shift at our peril.